what fascinates you about black holes? What do we know about black holes? And what would be your best educated guess as to what goes on inside when stuff gets sucked in?
Right. So black holes are quite amazing in the sense that they represent the structures of space and time. According to Einstein's theory of gravity, space and time can be distorted by objects, by mass. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Um,
So you're saying they could be black holes could be distorted by space and time.
no, so according to Einstein's theory of gravity, matter distorts space and time.
Got it.
So
Okay.
matter tells space and time how to curve, and then space and time, the curved space and time, tells matter how to move. Now, the most extreme distortion of space and time is in the context of a black hole, where you create a region that once any object gets into it, it cannot escape. Even light cannot escape from it. It's the ultimate prison. So there is this so-called event horizon surrounding this region, and if you imagine boarding a spacecraft that will cross this event horizon, you would never be able to transmit any signal that your friends back on Earth will receive. There is nothing that can escape from that region, and that makes black holes fascinating, unlike everything we've seen anywhere else. You can escape from the Earth, and we do that with spacecrafts. You can escape from stars, but you cannot escape from a black hole. And the question is, okay, matter gets in, but what happens to it? By the way, we do have an image of the shadow of a black hole that was obtained a couple of years ago, and it was actually obtained at the conference room of the Black Hole Initiative, a center at Harvard University that I'm the founding director of. And that's the first time we imaged the shadow, simply associated with the fact that light emitted behind the black hole is getting absorbed by it, so it appears as a dark shadow in the sky. And this shadow that was imaged is of a black hole that weighs 6 billion times the mass of the sun in a nearby galaxy called M87. And so that's quite amazing. But at any event, there is still the fundamental question of what happens to matter when it falls in. And I was wondering about this question when the basement at my home was flooded one day, and I asked the plumber to come over and figure out what's going on, and we found that the sewer is being clogged by tree roots, and then I thought to myself, I've never realized that the water actually goes out of the house somewhere, and I was just ignored this fact. And I thought about the analogy with the black holes. Matter gets into a black hole and it must go somewhere. There must be a collection place where the water, the matter that comes in goes to. And the question is, what is it? And according to Einstein's theory of gravity, there is a singularity at the center of a black hole. And that's simply a place where Einstein's theory breaks down, because when matter falls in, it gets to a very high density, almost infinite density, and then Einstein's theory just breaks down, cannot really deal with that. And we know why it fails, because it doesn't incorporate quantum mechanics. And obviously, if we had a unified theory of quantum mechanics and gravity, we could have forecasted what happens near the singularity, and the singularity will go away. We would figure out. So singularity is simply a place or a time where we can't really forecast what happens based on the Einstein's theory of gravity. And,
Okay. So there's
a conjecture.
Yeah. There's I was gonna say there's nothing in physics right now that can bridge the gap between the laws of physics that we know, the theory of relativity, and what goes on inside a black hole, the quantum mechanics, extreme situations of gravity. There's nothing that unifies those two.
Well, there are attempts that people are pursuing, like string theory or quantum loop, gravity. There are various proposals for how to unify quantum mechanics and gravity, but none of them is making a specific forecast as to what happens near the center of a black hole. They are unable to do this, to make that calculation. And so the bottom line is we don't know. And the same holds for the Big Bang. The Big Bang, the universe is expanding, and if you go back in time, there was a point in time where the density of matter was infinite. And it was everywhere infinite. So it was simply a point in time that was very special, and that's the Big Bang singularity. Again, singularity in Einstein's theory means we can't really use the theory to forecast what happened before the Big Bang. But if we had a theory that included quantum mechanics and gravity, we could have perhaps avoided that Big Bang and figured out what happened around that time. And so unfortunately, we don't know. So that's one of the mysteries. And in the context of the black hole, you can imagine two situations. You can imagine an object near the center of a black hole where all the matter collects, just like a town reservoir, a collection spot where you collect all the water from all the sewer, that comes in.
Did you see?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
And then another possibility is the matter goes somewhere else, and like another universe or somewhere else, and we just don't know.
Did you see there were a bunch of articles a few days ago about the first spaghettified star wrapping around a black hole or spotted?
Yeah, it was not the first. I mean, for
or was it the first that we observed, or am I
No,
I may be getting that wrong?
Examples before that.
Okay.
They just try to exaggerate the case for this set of observations, but we had evidence for stars getting spaghettified, and if you imagine, the Milky Way galaxy, our own galaxy, has a black hole of 4 million times the mass of the sun, and if a sun-like star would come close to within 10 times the event horizon of this black hole, it would get ripped apart and become spaghettified, basically become a stream of gas that will circle the black hole and eventually be swallowed. And so the same thing can happen around the black holes at the centers of other galaxies. And by the way, that is only happening if the black hole is not big enough, because if it's like M87, the black hole there, any black hole bigger than 100 million times the mass of the sun simply swallows the star whole, and you don't see any spaghettification. But smaller black holes, less than 100 million times the mass of the sun, can spaghettify a black hole, a star passing close to the black hole. And
what was special about this recent occurrence then of a spaghettified star? I'm reading an article where it says spaghettified star wrapped around black hole spotted for the first time. Why would they say it's the first time if it wasn't the first time? Or if you've looked into this recent one at all, what was special about this one where there are a bunch of publications about it?
Well, probably they got better data than we had before, so they had more data on this event. But definitely there were many other events before that that were good candidate events for the same phenomenon. So this is not
so they're exaggerating then when they say the first time.
They're exaggerating that it's the first. Yes, definitely. This is a field where you can find publications about events like that dating back a decade at least. I had a PhD student that worked on it a decade ago and wrote papers where there was already some literature on observational results over the past decades multiple times. So this is not a new discovery. I mean, maybe the data on this particular event is much better than it was on other events, but we do see such things. And it's interesting because a star getting ripped apart by the strong tidal force of the black hole creates a flare, and we can learn something about the environment of the black hole from that flare. But coming back to your original question, other than the nature of the singularity, there is another big paradox that we don't understand about black holes, and if You imagine an encyclopedia that carries a lot of information, let's say a book. You know, we don't need anymore these encyclopedia books of Britannica. We can throw them into a black hole. So imagine throwing them into a black hole and all this information gets swallowed. Now, by itself, that's not a paradox, because, you know, when you see a cat walking behind a building and you suddenly don't see the cat, that doesn't mean that the cat doesn't exist. The information was lost. No, the cat exists, it's just that you can't see it. So when the encyclopedia goes into a black hole, you know, it's not a paradox. You just can't see it. It's still there. But the problem comes from the notion that was originally pioneered by Stephen Hawking. In the early 1970s, he showed that the black hole evaporates. It evaporates into radiation that doesn't carry this information. And he basically showed, you know, even though a black hole is a prison, it cannot confine radiation that has that cannot be localized to the black hole. It has a wavelength bigger than the size of the black hole, and basically continuously leaks radiation, and that is called Hawking evaporation. And so eventually a black hole evaporates and disappears. And the question is, if it's not around anymore, you know, if the building is not around anymore, you should see the cat, you know. But where did the information go? If the black hole disappears and the radiation that was created doesn't carry the information that fell into the black hole, so where is that information? That violates a fundamental law of quantum mechanics, that information cannot be destroyed. And that is a puzzle that physicists are working on, trying to figure out either whether something was wrong in Hawking's calculation, or maybe the radiation that comes out that carries that information, maybe there is some other solution that has to be figured out.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. As a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full, uncut 2+ hour episodes of the Auxoro podcast, plus gain access to 2 bonus episodes every month at auxoro.supercast.tech. Link is also in the description. Thank you so much for supporting quality content from independent creators like myself. Cheers.